Hello, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Ninja-Ninjutsu Podcast. I am your host, Don Rowley. Before I get to things, I'm going to answer a question I've been getting from a few people. Yes, eventually this podcast will be audio version and available on the platforms that support podcasts. But for at the start, there are certain things that really require visual. I need to show things, and I want to get those things out of the way before I move on to audio regular type podcast. So, doing that, today's podcast is one such visual one. I'm talking about a simple, expedient, improvised weapon that is very effective and built on the skills that you learn in the Bujinkan, assuming that you learn from a proper teacher. I'm talking about this simple little weapon, easily made, cheap, easy to discard, easy to make, how should I say, de-weaponize it when needed to. So I want to start out by saying that if you do self-defense rather than sport or one of those quienes mas macho things that little boys do on the schoolyards, you need to accept the reality of weapons. And that's two facets. One is there are weapons out there, and the bad guys will use weapons. You train for weapons differently than you do if you know there's no weapons. So sport can get away with things that, actual self-defense can't. We have to do things that, well, might not work as well if it is actually an unarmed situation, but we have to keep ourselves safe. We have to avoid more than take a blow, for example, because if we take a blow that we think is a punch and it's actually a knife, that's bad. The other one is, of course, we're not apes. We are humans. We use tools. So if you are justified in using a weapon in a self-defense situation, you should. Now, there's modern weapons such as firearms, pepper spray, knives, batons, stuff like that. And I carry a firearm, and I carry a knife, and I carry pepper spray. Not all at once most of the time, but usually pepper spray and something else. But really, traditional weapons do have a purpose. A lot of people badmouth them, say that they have no use. Well, if you're doing the XMA or just learning a weapon to qualify for a belt rank, yeah, they got a point. But if you learn the principles of a weapon, it's fairly easy to apply those principles to other things, improvised weapons. I'm talking about principles like knowing why a rapier can't slash, and why it's such a perfect thrusting weapon. I learned jute in Japan. 99% of it is hitting someone. Give me one of those D-cell flashlights, I can mess somebody up. I carry a little shovel entrenching tool in my car just in case I get, bogged down in mud or something like that. It's not a sword, it's not a spear, it's not a stick. It's kind of a combination of two, and you don't want to face me when I have that in my hand. Yeah, if you know the principles, you can apply those principles to something else. And on that note, I'm going to talk about this weapon, which is just basically something like a padlock, or in this case, a heavy metal carabiner, and a piece of rope. Note that this is not really tied down. I just run the loop through it, so it's down like this. Then I put a few knots in it. Now, this, of course, builds on this, which we train in the Bujinkan a lot. Not everyone teaching it actually knows what the hell they're doing. I'm just going to put that right out there. Bujinkan does have some quality controls in that respect, be quite honest. But if you do know what you're doing, this is an effective weapon, can really mess your day up. But a little interesting piece of history. The ninja did not use Kusari Fundo. We train with Kusari Fundo because it's the closest to the weapon that uses the same principles. What the ninja actually used, flexible weapons, was a rock wrapped up in a towel. Japanese use a little towel about yay big, usually wrap it around the shoulders. In summer they got it outside so they can wipe sweat off their face. In winter they kind of put it inside like a scarf. It's fairly common back in the day. And of course rocks, well, damn near everywhere. Not the greatest weapon, but you can walk right up to somebody with a towel and, well, get surprised. You can get past the guard and escape, real quickly. So this continues the tradition of the ninja. An improvised weapon, easily made, common materials, fairly cheap too. And again, 99% of it is just hitting. Now, of course, it doesn't have chain. They use chain in Kasari Fundos because they were guards and they might face swords. Your chances of facing a sword in the 21st century are kind of low. Not zero, but low. So most of the time you can get away with rope. There's also defensive weapons, and these are pretty good for like stopping someone with a punch or coming in with a knife and all that, if you know what you're doing. I keep saying that, if you know what you're doing. Too many people out there are teaching not knowing what they're doing. Okay, don't get me started. Anyways, so this is something, again, the beauty of this thing is that it's legal almost everywhere. I mean, I know it's legal here, and especially so when you break it down into pieces. Now, I have carried this into places that have had, metal detectors. I'm not making names, but yeah, just put this in the tray, to be scanned, put this in your pocket, and then when you're in the area that they don't allow weapons, just keep them apart. There's not a weapon at that point. When you go back on the streets of Denver, which is really turned into hell, I tell you right now, just, again, put it back together. Boom, good to go. Keep it in your pocket with just a little bit of it sticking out. If you think that there's problems, you kind of stick your thumb through here, boom, pull out, ready to go in a second. This is basically my theme for this year. I've got a student who's going to go to Europe, probably not even going to be able to carry a knife. Sticks will look a little suspicious. This, on the other hand, probably can get away. Now, there is a variation of this. This is not Bujinkan. This is something that I learned outside the Bujinkan while I was in Japan. It's called the Tenouchi. And, basically I put up some of the kata in one of my newsletters, just to show what kind of things they are. This, of course, is good for hitting. Modern version might be tactical pen, tactical flashlight. Okay, just add a lanyard to it. Then, you got this going. Can still do defensive weapons while still hitting, even if you don't know the specific techniques of the Tenouchi that I do. Another idea you might get, take the carabiner from the previous weapon, and put it at the other end. Oh, okay, so you've got something here that you can swing around and hit. Well, this is the heavy inside hitting type thing. Even if you don't know the Tenouchi, I assume, if you learned the Kusari Fundo, that you can basically swing this around. And of course, this is the Edo Koppo. And you've got the advantage of being able to a little bit defensive with this. Food for thought. Again, cheap, simple weapons, easy to improvise. And in case of trouble, you won't cry if you throw them away. In any case, that's it for this week. See you next time.